for staying with us. The South African Union of Students has called for Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter's head. It says the continued blackouts are negatively affecting students during exams. I'm joined now by spokesperson Asive Dlanjwa, who's in Bloemfontein and joins us via Zoom to discuss this further. Asive, thank you so much for joining us. Before we speak about Eskom and Andre de Ruyter, give us a snapshot, give us an idea of what impact these ongoing power cuts have had on students, many of whom are writing very important exams as we speak.
Thank you very much, Marcel, and thank you for having us. I think these blackouts have been absolutely devastating for students. Very briefly, I mean, the majority of students are not on campus, so they are studying remotely from home. So when these power cuts happen, it means that the students are not able to study, number one. Number two, but it also means that, because it also affects the network, mobile network. So what you find that is that while they are writing their exam, the network will cut, automatically disconnecting them from their test and making an automatic submission. And of course, many of them have complained of this, and it means that their test gets submitted automatically without them having not completed their test. They do not know when the power is going to cut, when the power will not cut. For those that are using Wi-Fi, as they are writing their test, the power cuts. So they have been absolutely devastating. I think in other years, we might not have realized because students were on campus, and most institutions, or at least some, have generators. There are no generators at home. The students are there has also been the inconsistent and inaccurate reporting of the schedule as to when the load shedding will come and when it will not come. So they do not know when this will happen. So it has been absolutely devastating for our students across the country.
And of course, it adds a stress to an already stressed and anxiety-ridden body of students who have come through almost 2 years of trying to keep up with their studies in the midst of a pandemic that's added its own issues and difficulties as well in terms of logistics.
Absolutely, Marcel, because you must understand that inherently, without all of this, that is happening, generally exams will induce stress, panic and anxiety among students. So you can imagine there's already COVID. You must understand that already students had been struggling on campus with face-to-face teaching and learning. Now these students have had to learn on their own at home, because the reality of the matter is that the blended learning, which has involved online learning for the most part for the majority of the students, has been insufficient. It has not been effective enough. So on top of the fact that there are no lecturers who have been teaching them face to face, they have to self-study, they have self-taught. Now on top of that, they have to have the unadded uncertainty of whether will they be able to even participate or carry on with their examinations. But we understand that COVID has had a huge, a massive detrimental impact and effect on our students. So just COVID alone. So this is just absolutely unacceptable. Now, you see, with COVID, we could say that for the most part, none of us are responsible for it, at least for the most part. But someone is responsible for the blackouts. The blackouts are not natural. It's not a disaster. The pandemic is in a form of incompetent individuals, such as the CEO of Eskom.
Now, let's talk about Andre de Ruyter. He has been at pains to explain that one cannot fix the problems caused by years of corruption and neglect and mismanagement at Eskom, and that cannot be fixed overnight. He's been there for 2 years. You are of the opinion that that's just not good enough, and that we've seen rolling blackouts of a very high proportion just during the time that he's been in charge. Do you think he's got a leg to stand on when he says that what he came to fix cannot be fixed in the short space of time that he's been there?
No, absolutely. That is just, it does not make sense. When Andre de Ruyter was brought on, it was that he was going to turn the utility around, which he has successfully failed to do so. So that was his mandate. Now, not only has he not, at least at the very least, been able to sustain it, it has become worse, number one. And number two, the argument that it is years of mismanagement, etc., etc. I suppose none of us are contesting the fact that Eskom has not been one of the best run SOEs or companies for that matter. But it is for the same reason that the democratic government, our democratic government also appreciates that we can no longer be saying, no, these were the challenges. We appreciate that some of the challenges that we're suffering as a country are a remnants of and a heritage and a legacy of apartheid. But however, it is insufficient for a government in power today to ascribe a lack of, in any area, if there's a lack of ability to execute that which is supposed to be executed, we can no longer forever be claiming that no, it was because of a law that was passed in 1948, etc. We have to take responsibility as this particular government. Therefore, I am raising this example to say that likewise with Andre de Ruyter, he has, because, so what must we do? That mismanagement happened, all of us agree. So what must then happen now? Must we carry on to live in a country where there is unstable power? How will the country function, especially when your primary responsibility that you were given upon your employment was to turn the utility around, and that is what he has failed to do. If he believes he does not have the ability to turn it around in the time which he was given, then he must go. This is why he must go and allow those that I can assure you myself, as slowly as the sun shall rise tomorrow, that there is someone out there who knows and believes that they would be able to turn that utility around, who has the necessary means to turn the utility around. If Andre de Ruyter believes he's not that person, as he has proven not to be that person, he must leave.
Now, de Ruyter was speaking at a briefing yesterday, and he said, and I quote, "I serve at the pleasure and discretion of the board, and if the board asks me to resign, then I will resign. There haven't been any conversations about me resigning." He, of course, is also appointed by Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. Should they too then be in your crosshairs right now as people that should be to blame, specifically Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan, who, of course, is supposed to carry the can when it comes to keeping the lights on behalf of government?
Absolutely. Minister Pravin Gordhan is as much responsible as Andre de Ruyter is, because you see that's the one place or the one part where we'll agree with Andre de Ruyter to an extent that if in fact we have all seen that Andre de Ruyter is failing, and it was the responsibility, and it has the responsibility of the minister to note that Andre de Ruyter has failed and to make the necessary intervention, which he has failed to do. So absolutely, Pravin Gordhan is as equally responsible for the mess that we find ourselves in as Andre de Ruyter is. In fact, for that matter, it is unfortunate because there is not even one SOE that we can look at under the leadership of Pravin that we can say, no shame, at least he's trying here. The problem is just a de Ruyter. It proves that the man himself is failing. And even that board, it is failing to ensure that the executive of the utility is able to account and put the lights on. They are also equally responsible. We are saying here the president needs to intervene. President Cyril Ramaphosa must intervene with agency, because it is not only students, by the way, that are suffering because of this blackout. The whole country is suffering. The economy is suffering. So the president at some point, because once we move to a point where we're at a point of an irreconcilable point or a point of no return because of the incompetence of de Ruyter and his godfather, Minister Pravin Gordhan, then we are now then going to say the president is now directly responsible because he saw these things happening. We are now saying the minister is failing, the CEO is failing, the board is failing, take action.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much. Asive Dlanjwa, he is the spokesperson for the South African Union of Students. Thank you for your time this evening. You used the saying there, as certain as the sun will rise tomorrow. Some might say, thank goodness Eskom isn't running the sun. On to this now. Matric pupils in KwaZulu-Natal who